Remember the old television series Gunsmoke, where you had a sheriff of the town whose name was Marshall Dillon and his trusty deputy Festus. And then there was the girl that worked in the bar, Miss Kitty. Well, this is the story, brief story, of when Festus came to town one day and he was absolutely butt naked from top to bottom. That got the whole towns into an uproar. And so much so, Marshall Dillon came out and he saw Festus naked. And he came up to him and he said, "Festus, what in the world is going on with you, Festus? That you came here and embarrassing the town like this, and embarrassing even me. You are a deputy." And Festus replied, "Well, Marshall, I went out on a buggy ride in the woods with Miss Kitty." He said, "You're going to have a better excuse here now. You're going to have to really have a good excuse, Festus." And Festus said, "Well, I went out on a buggy ride with Miss Kitty. She asked me to go out on a picnic." He said, yeah. And so we got to one place, got out the wagon. She set out the tablecloth, all nice and pretty. And while we were sitting there, she said, "Festus, let's get comfortable. Take off your shoes, take off your boots." And he said, "Yeah, come on, Festus, you're going to have a good excuse now. This is ridiculous." He said, "Well, sir, I took my boots off, and she took her shoes off as well." And then she said, "Festus." And then he went on to say, "Well, and Marshall, she told me to take off my hat, and take off my shirt." I said, "Yeah, I took my shirt off. I thought it was kind of strange." And so she took off her blouse. And she said, "Festus, take off your pants." "My pants, Miss Kitty?" I told her. And she said, "Yeah, take off your pants." And so she took off her corset, she took off her bra, and she got completely naked. And then she said, "Festus, well," he said, "Come on, Festus, you're going to have to finish this story now." "Well, anyway, Marshall," she said, "Festus, take off your underwear." And so I took off my underwear. And so he said, "And what else happened?" "Well," she said, "well, Festus, go to town." So I came to town. That was pretty good, wasn't it? That reminds me of another story. You know, there was a husband and a wife on their way to a costume party. And so they were dressed as a cow. The husband was the head, and the wife was the rear of the cow. Anyway, they were driving down this long farm road during the night. And so all of a sudden the car stopped. And she said, "Well, honey, what's going on?" He said, "Well, let me check it out." He checked it out and couldn't get it started. So he said, "We're out of gas. I can't believe that." She said, "Out of gas? Well, what are we going to do?" He said, "Well, I see a farm and the lights on way yonder in that field, on the other side of that field." She said, "Oh my goodness." He said, "Well, we can go over there. Maybe we can get some help." And she said, "Okay." So they climbed over the fence. The husband's walking. The wife's right behind him. And she said, "Well, honey, come on now. It's getting kind of late." And he looked off in the distance. And the wife said, "Oh my God, there's a bull." And he saw it. He said, "And it's huffing and it's puffing. It looks like it's going to come this way. What in the world are we going to do?" He said, "Well, I don't know about you. I'm going to go over here and eat some grass. You better brace yourself." You got it?